the sudden plot twist in Doron Doron. I wish I could call it like D squared or like 2D. I'm just gonna go back to calling it Doran or something. But the whole plot twist of this dude, Hidehise, I think that's the name is pronounced. I'm gonna go double check because I want to get his name memorized because I really liked this chapter. I thought this is a really solid one. I got too lazy and I got behind on my last one, but but anyone who asks, I did like the last chapter. I thought it was really well done in how it constructed a story of this dude who knew Dora from like years prior into explaining the power system and showing essentially what like the gap between the two characters are just based off of one having supernatural powers while one is super strong, but he doesn't have any of those powers. So it's just kind of like, it gives you an understanding of like this dude who, if he didn't have that supernatural power, he would be, way weaker, but he's actually stronger than Dora by himself as long as he has this power. But because of Kusanagi, that Dora is able to have that. And I like how their whole setup works. So between the two of them, it's really cool because it makes Kusanagi more hype, but obviously it makes Kusanagi a little bit of a kind of target of interest because, everyone's going to want to be interested in this Mononoke who's friendly and is not going to try and kill and eat them and is helping, is helping them save lives and do stuff for humanity. So he would be like a huge kind of like general, like attention focus, but also if he's a lot of untapped power, at least from what we've seen, it will like, it'll just generally draw in attention from probably some bad people that want to just figure out how to harness him. Like, what if they want to take Kusanagi and put him with someone stronger than Dora, so like they could just have like the ultimate fighter with both their power combined, whoever their strongest samurai is or whatever. But something like that where it's just like a problem where it's like they don't look at it from really the context of like how it's working. They're just looking at it from like a almost like a robotic kind of like schematic standpoint. They're just trying to like think like, oh, logically kind of like this would work, but not really thinking into any of the more kind of like character context that kind of like connects things together. Because I assume that like Dora and Kusanagi just have like a really good sync together in general because they obviously get along and they have like a strong trust between the two of each other. But we get like an old classic. It was funny, like it rolled out. It was this and Mashal this week. It did some of the old classic shonen stuff. Mashal had one of the parts where it's like, I'm going to use this % of my power, and then every single time there's like percentages going on or going up. Characters are commenting specifically on percentages, and like I'm fine with it. It's an old anime thing. I've always enjoyed it. It's funny because like outside of My Hero, but like My Heroes I think is overlooked in it because it's more like a plot thing rather than like a character. Oh, I'm gonna only use 10% of my power thing. Kind of setup. But this guy over there, I thought he was great. But in this one, you have the whole power level numbers thing. Do an attack on this machine and it will read your power level. I wonder like in the verse, like if you were in this series, if you were a samurai, like I wonder if there would be somewhere where you could kind of like regularly go and test this out. Like you have to go into one of these training things, and like, is it like, could you just pretty much go in there whenever you wanted? Because I was thinking about it, because like stuff like that I've always really liked in series. I've always really liked the idea of being able to directly measure your power level, because like for me, I would definitely want to climb the ladder and constantly try and like become stronger and see how stuff works. Because like in a fantasy world, it's way more cool and crazy where it's like in real life, I mean, I guess you just get buff. No, it's not as cool. It's not as cool as having like powers and abilities. So it's like if I was pretty much any of these series where you put in the effort and whatever their power system is, climb the ladder. I finally have a reason to stop being as lazy, because that's like the one thing that would completely turn me into like motivated for life, get crazy powers. This is, I feel like that'd be sick. It's weird to me when you have characters who don't kind of like think about certain aspects like that, where it's like, so I can kind of get ones where it's like powers are whole branches. Just a quick example before I go back to the actual context of this chapter. It's like in Bleach, it's always weird that Ichigo never really tries to learn like Kido and stuff, when it's like, it's not like a whole branch of power. Whereas like something like Fairy Tail like a Magic is like it's a whole thing on its own. It'd be like trying to learn a Zanpakuto to a degree. Obviously, they're two different mechanical things, but it's like its own power. It's its own power with its own not power source, but you know what I mean, its own ability within a power system with its own set techniques and stuff. It has its own branch of its own abilities. It grows in its own kind of ways. But if you were in if you were in Bleach, it'd be like, I'm not gonna learn all the Kido, but if I can learn like 2 or 3 that are useful, like learn 1 healing, just be like, oh man, it was a rough fight, heal my minor wounds, and it's like I can't heal like anything crazy, but just getting up those kind of like general, like maybe like regular bleeding cuts would be pretty sick. Regardless, I wonder if there's anything like that in this series, because it's like the supernatural energy that we were seeing so far, we're only seeing it in kind of like using in their sword and defensively. One thing we learned about this chapter, it seems that Dora is like when he's cloaked in Kusanagi's supernatural energy, it's also increasing his physical strength. But from what I can tell, the other people really only get it in the power of their sword. So I wonder exactly how that's kind of really going to play out larger scale. Granted, we don't know much about their power system. We only really have like the most basic description of how it's working. Put it into weapon, makes bigger attack. Cloak yourself in defense. Like that's like the most basic kind of power of like attributes to a power system you can have. And obviously we just started kind of like actually getting to understand it. So I'm finding it. I'm just wondering if there's more advanced techniques. Like if there are ways to say, something like Black Clover, another easy example, like just reinforcement magic, just enhancing your physical body. Could you just like maybe use it in more integrated ways? Like, oh, I want to use my supernatural powers to make it so I can make like earth clones of myself, like copies or something like that, where it's like some kind of like extra complicated ability, like you're just doing something kind of like to a higher degree, and it's like you have like the raw energy and then you have like kind of techniques with it, specializations that you do using the power. I don't know. I always really have fun whenever a series comes out, whenever these battle shonens, and like seeing what their power system is. And I keep saying out loud, I was so close. I'll just give a quick snippet. I was gonna mention something about Build Kings. I wanted to do the first new gen power system I thought of anything the last recent years. And even though it was axed, the power system was extremely interesting. It was extremely cool, and I didn't want to go on a tangent about it. So back to the series. I like the one dude, Heisuke, again, I believe his name was. He's upset because he wanted to go and brag and kind of like impress all the juniors, but the other dude went and did it. What was his name? Toma. Yeah, Toma. And I thought that was neat. Like, we got a good understanding of him. He's got like 591, so clearly he's well above average, because we get like a couple side characters. And again, this is stuff I like. I like this. It feels, again, very kind of basic shonen, but it's kind of like these bare bones basics that are, I think are good for foundation. I think stuff like this early is really good to understand. And it doesn't have to be early, but like in the setting. They're like, anytime you do one of these things, like you have to kind of like, you can't just have power levels. You have to understand kind of like an idea of like where these numbers represent, where they kind of pinpoint, okay, we're not going to give you everything. It's not an exact, but it's like these rough numbers can kind of give you an estimation of where some of these characters stand. We have a bunch of like side characters, background characters. You're just saying like one character got 126, one got 174, 150. They said for cadets, average is 150. The samurai troopers is 300, and the samurai officers is 900. And so the 500 obviously is pretty good. It's above the average samurai troops. But Dora and Kusanagi, so there's a couple things I really wonder about the series. And before the end, I really want to find the chapter again that I'll probably do it before the next chapter. I got to go back and find the one page that has the rankings, because I'm wondering if the people on Heisuke's rank are like the top, if they are actually the top, and like how that's going to play out. Because with the bad guys right now, I assume that they are like, I would assume that with the bad guys, they are going to be stronger than any one-on-one of the whole like samurai officers, except for maybe like whoever their top one is or something. But for the most part, they're gonna be stronger, but not undefeatable. Like, obviously in groups, it's like, okay, they can group up and have a team fight and overcome them. But the thing is, like, after that point, say the series does last, say the series does well, First volume sells well. Again, this is hypothetical. First volume sells well, and then they get through this arc, and then what would the next opponents logically would have to be stronger. So would it be like they have to start like breaking past the point of the strongest people? Are they gonna start bringing out older people? Because stuff like this, the stuff like this kind of like organizational type stuff that's already been long established, you have to think about the history. So one thing they could do, maybe bring out people who are retired or whatever. I don't know. It's something that I'm really hyped to know about for the size of the series and how it goes. But he gets like 978 and then it breaks. So I'm guessing it went over 999. So I'm just guessing on where exactly it kind of plays out. Granted, this just seems like you're not putting in your whole attack. You're just kind of doing like your general attack or something, or kind of like a really strong kind of like forceful attack. If you put in 100%, I assume that you'd be like sweating bullets afterwards. And Toma, he seems like he did it, and he looks like he gave out a good breath, but at like of probably like, you know, probably flex and put in some energy, a little like nice breath relief. But afterwards, like he doesn't look like he's too strained. Doesn't look like somebody who just put all of his power into one attack. But after that point, we do see that Keisuke is like saying how like, oh, that's good. So power wise, he's saying he can go on high level missions. So again, I'm guessing that means that I'm guessing like the 999 is like once you get past that point, because it says, let me go back. It was 900 is the average score for samurai officers. So if the average score is 900, then obviously then there's numbers above 900. And I don't think in that this is their 100%. So I would assume that any of them at 100% could, break the 999 thing. Because even like the lowest who's below the, 900 average should still be able to, I would assume, break it. Because I don't think there's any that are going to be weaker than Dora's just kind of like regular slash. I don't think so. Maybe they'll show later that there's a 4-digit meter and we'll see it in the thousands and see where like these kind of things rank, which is again is another shonen cliche, but I like it. Again, those are the tropes I enjoy. But the end of the chapter, again, we can go about it because for the most part I just kind of want to talk about the villains. But I really like this part. I really like this chapter. For this part, I like it when you have moments after the big battles and stuff where it's kind of like a cool down and you see the characters just being characters. Obviously it's like, it's really calm after like big hype parts, and when you're reading it on a weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly schedule or whatever, sometimes when you get those lower chapters it can feel a little draining, but at the same time it can be kind of comfortable. But it's nice to see the characters just be characters again, just be kind of people. And one thing I always enjoy, because you don't get a ton of it, you don't get a lot of it, but I always enjoy it, is you see villains like when they're bad, bad guys would regardless if they're antagonists or villains or whatever, whether it's a viewpoint thing or pure evil, whatever. I like it when we're not seeing them around any of the good guys, and you're just seeing bad guys interact with each other, especially when it's cases like this where it's not the big boss and he's just kind of like talking to his underlings and they're just listening. He's talking. That's cool too. Those different kind of styles are fine, but I really like it when you have parts like this where you have clearly the bad guys can fight each other, and they don't get along. So you see like scuffles between them, because I think that just makes for interesting interactions. But Hide comes back and he's mad at the one. The design of the spider chick. I'm very happy with Spider Chick. I'm biased towards Spider Women, and I'm very happy that this is a character that if the series survives, we'll see. Again, don't know. I guess I can be happy that if the series does get axed, this character probably won't get killed off. It'll just be somebody implied that they'll have to fight later, maybe. I'd be sad if this series like it's axed and then this character dies anyway. That would just be such salt to the wounds. But everything beyond that, you have some really interesting parts. So I thought that like we see this like lower level samurai guy, and he's like he's trying to talk to this kid. And again, I keep saying I can't help it. Once I say I'm self-aware, once I bring it up, I'm self-aware of it, so I'm able to like I notice way more. Anyway, this is a longer review, probably the longest one I think for this series, and the longest one I've done for any like the side stuff in a bit for my channels, any like the newer ones, newer manga rather. But this guy, he's like trying to talk to this kid, calm him down, and he does this kind of I like what he does here. this is a really cool part. This guy wants to let the kids go. Like he's saying like pretty much like do it, you know, I'll do anything. Please let the kids go. And I think I really would have loved to see how this would have worked without Hidehisa here, because Hidehisa. Because I feel like he obviously turned around because he's annoyed and mad. So like if he wasn't present, I wonder if he could have tried to convince them of this, maybe like figured some form of deal out. I don't know. I'm fine with this because I was thinking of like the plot point before he got there, and it's like you could see the vein. It's like this guy's already pissed off, and he's already like he's clearly like a psycho, and he's fine destroying stuff at a whim. So these guys didn't look too good, and I'm surprised they killed all these like random like fodder civilians immediately. Again, I mean, it makes sense. I don't need characters to die, but I think when characters are put into a situation where they're kind of in a no hope moment like that, and then like it's like they were in a bad situation, and then it's like the guy was trying to do something good because he wanted to like have the kids let go. The kids will pretty much give any clues to lead everybody here, and then they can try and defeat these guys. The guy was getting ready to make like a pretty noble sacrifice. I actually like that. I thought that was pretty good for him as like just a side character. But he ends up surviving the blast again, killing all the civilians. Again, I was surprised, but he survives. I assume because he's got supernatural powers. He probably blocked with it. And I thought he would get away, but the one like big like buff drinking Mononoke like just rushes him and smashes him, and then gets laughed at by Hidehisa for killing him. And then this other guy comes out who's talking to Kanbei. I'm wondering like who's in charge though, because I'm guessing there's a boss. Like I'm fine if they're just kind of like a group, and I'm guessing there's a boss. There has to kind of just be like some bigger bad guy character that is kind of like governing them. I don't really know, but it's going to depend. Maybe it's something that we won't see unless the series continues, because otherwise Hidehisa is a fine like big final boss, because he looks cool. He's got a badass design. We've already seen him once. We're clearly seeing character sides to him. The one spider girl, she's pretty funny because like the whole time she's like acting like they're fighting over her, and like their whole conflict is based off of some affection for her, but they're both just like, no, shut up. Like I'm fine with it. She's a bad guy. Like she's probably like a fucking psycho, but I like that she's annoying them. That's the thing I like. I enjoy it when you have bad guy interactions with them, because to them, even though they're bad guys, they have a degree of camaraderie. So it's kind of cool seeing that not just kind of bloodlusted, I'm going to destroy everything side. It's like, okay, we're also just going to, in general, just have some back and forths. I enjoyed that. I'm guessing that she's powerful, like equal to him at least. Like if she's able to mess with him and not even worry about it, unless she like has like foolproof ways to escape. I don't know. Definitely really cool though. There is information as they're talking about the samurais and stuff, and like the weaker ones, but they do mention the samurai officers and Hidehisa, like him confronting them, talking about Heisuke. And they says their plan is to draw out seven. They said there's 7 of their 8 headquarters, so maybe that's it. Maybe there's just more samurai officers, and maybe they have their own ranks. Because I was wondering, like, is there only 7? I rereading it, I was like, okay, at headquarters. Because are they going to limit like their biggest characters already to 900, and then 7? There's only 7 of them, but it makes sense if there's only 7. The thing though that I don't think they're gonna understand, because clearly here's 2 things, and I'll give a series to kind of compare it to really quick, and then I will give my examples of it in the series. So actually let me flip that. I'll give the series example, and I'll give a series example, or what did I just say? I'll give the chapter in Doron Doron example, and then a different series example to give a good explanation or a good comparison. It's like, yeah, this could happen. These guys don't seem to know how strong the samurais actually are in their whole entirety. Like, we don't know. Obviously, we're reading it. It's the first time. It's new, just coming out. So we don't know how powerful they are. They only just found out about the samurai officers. Heisuke's obviously like pretty strong and a big deal. But they have to, like, I feel like when they say headquarters, they have to think, who's at headquarters? If it's headquarters, this is their primary place. this is their biggest place. So if you are a big person, you probably go to headquarters a lot. So I imagine that they could easily run into some super high ranking samurai that might be too powerful for them. And the series I wanted to compare it to really quick was Jujutsu Kaisen. Easy one to use, relatively recent for a lot of people to give an example, or both the manga and anime. It was when they tried to fight Gojo, Satoru Gojo, both for the anime, I'll just say the first time, and then the second time fighting Gojo. Like clearly they didn't really get a full understanding of how powerful their opponent was, and we don't know exactly how these opponents would really do because they said they want to lure them out, but like say what happens if they run it into the one who's the strongest? They need to figure out information about them first is definitely what they need to do. But obviously we don't know entirely how that's gonna all play out. We don't know, maybe this is the intel guy. Maybe there's another character that is out getting intel. But one thing that they would definitely need to do, because they have to clearly have a level of organization to them. Not the greatest, but to a degree, is they any bad guy group is you should figure out the pecking order. Figure out who's the strongest, which I feel like wouldn't be too hard. I feel like if you had someone you probably could figure it actually online. I feel like the samurai would be big deals, like whoever their biggest people are. But yeah, do whatever they can, figure out who they are, and then figure out their ways of who they're gonna pick off and what their plan is. It's just gonna depend. I'm hoping these villains are competent. We'll see. So far they've done good. So far I think they've been pretty fair. We haven't seen anything crazy. Clearly they've got a secured base. They captured some people. There's been power level demonstrations. There's clearly some planning going on. They have cool designs. So yeah, I think this was a pretty solid chapter, and this one's a little bit longer because the series, I've enjoyed the series, but it hasn't been too hype for me. But the last couple chapters have been hype for me. Once Hide Kisa came out, I think the series to me picked up a lot of interest because it finally introduced a bad guy group. It introduced an overarching plot. We have stuff going on with Dora and Kusanagi with the whole their whole stuff with the samurai, and now going to go on mission soon. It's interesting. I really like this chapter and where stuff's going to go, because a lot of the stuff early was set up and just kind of getting an understanding of how things are kind of going to be structured, but now we're actually getting into plot. So hopefully the series does good. I like it. Again, I genuinely like it. It isn't crazy for me on me yet, but I do like it. But anyway, other than that, comment below, thumbs up the video, before like, button, subscribe, and check out my other videos. From that, appreciate every time I subscribe. Thank you all for listening. Bye.